Alright guys, we're going to talk about Estee Lauder today. You know, the big conglomerate that owns multiple beauty brands and of course fragrance houses. This is a ranked list and we're talking about 5 different houses or brands under Estee Lauder. And there's a few that are in bonus section which did not fit in the top 5. So if you're curious to learn about Estee Lauder brands, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian. Yesterday we're talking about Estee Lauder. This is a big conglomerate that owns multiple brands, many brands. In fact, there's so many brands under Estee Lauder. The majority of them are beauty brands for faces and things like that, skincare, all that kind of stuff. Many of them. There's so many brands out there, but of course they have multiple niche houses as well, including Kilian, Jo Malone. We've got Tom Ford, Frederic Malle, Labo. There's a few brands that did not fit in the top 5, obviously. They're kind of newish, or actually they would be collections under the Estee Lauder brand. But the majority of these brands I speak about quite frequently. And also, not last year, I think the year before, Estee Lauder dropped several brands, including Donna Karan, Michael Kors, Xenia. They also got rid of a few other brands, and I'm drawing a blank right now what they are. But they dropped those brands, and also from what I hear, Balmain has launched or made an agreement with Estee Lauder, so they are going to do beauty and perfumes for this particular fashion house starting next year. So I'm looking forward to what they launch with Balmain, but today I've got 5 different brands I'm going to talk to you about today. So I'm going to start off with the first brand, and at number 5 it is by Kilian. So I'm putting by Kilian as number 5 favorite house under Estee Lauder, and we're going to start off with we're going to talk about 3 different fragrances from this house. That's what I'm going to do. We'll talk about 3 different fragrances that are standout for me from each house, and you can go check out the brands and discover their fragrances if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you know these brands anyway, but by Kilian signed with Estee Lauder probably 5 years ago, and they've been releasing fragrances for the house. I know the fragrances have gotten watered down. In fact, every single brand that's going to be under here are much lighter than what the actual brands used to be before, but these brands are pretty popular. But I'm putting Kilian at number 5 because I just feel like they are deserving of the number 5 spot. So we've got Angel's Share here, quite delicious fragrance. It's a totally unoriginal fragrance, but they've taken it into a boozy direction, of course. If you haven't caught my video on Angel's Share alternatives, you should go catch that. There are many different alternatives, of course. Ombre Narguilé by Hermes came way before Angel's Share, probably like 15 years prior. But I think what they've done is quite delicious here with Angel's Share. I do enjoy it. I like the kind of holiday-ish vibe, sweet, syrupy, cinnamony, kind of gourmand booziness with cognac, cinnamon, praline, tonka beans, vanilla, sandalwood, and oak. And then a couple of earlier fragrances that I got into here. The first fragrance to talk about is Intoxicated, probably one of the better coffee fragrances with cardamom. I absolutely love this combination. It smells delicious. It does really have a great connection. The coffeeness and the cardamom that's in here just creates for a really electric smell, and really do love it. And they also have some cinnamon and nutmeg featured here as well. And then finally, Straight to Heaven is the first fragrance I bought from this house going back to 2012. This, on the other hand, is the extreme. I really love the combination. I like the kind of patchouli earthiness with the booziness of the rum, along with the dried fruits and vanilla, which actually smells fantastic in the heat. Not very heavy fragrances, which is what I complain about this house. I don't know. A lot of you say they're strong for you. I don't get very big performance with these fragrances. Maybe because they're not really far-reaching. They're kind of more subdued in projection. Maybe that's why I feel like they don't last as long, but I think they have some great fragrances. But still, at number 5, I think Kilian deserves to be here at number 5. Alright, the 4th Estee Lauder owned brand I'm going to go with is Le Labo. Now, over the weekend I aired my top 20 Le Labo fragrances video. If you haven't caught that, please go catch it. But at number 4, under Estee Lauder, I would consider Le Labo to be the right place, I think. And Le Labo has some really nice fragrances. I do think some of them are a bit too hipsterish for me, I think. And some of them also are kind of redundant, at least to me. Like the matcha tea or whatever that one is, which you should have seen in the video. I feel like it's kind of an unnecessary release. I am looking forward to the lavender fragrance that they are launching very soon. I just found out about it, so we'll stay for that one. But for now, I'm gonna go with Thé Noir. Thé Noir is so good. This is one of the best fragrances from this house, I think, and it smells fantastic. It's a very unique fig fragrance in that it has a bit of rosiness and also a bit of fruitiness, but lots of green touches. Probably one of the most original fig fragrances where it has other things happening with the figs, which makes for a very interesting and unique experience. So it's figs, cedarwood, tobacco, vetiver, hay, bergamot, and bay leaves. And that bay leaves note is really magic for me in this. You can really smell it in the background, and it's really a nice connection with every other note. This is a city exclusive fragrance. It's Musk 25. It's super cozy, super musky, a bit animalic, and super sexy as well. Really love this one. One of my favorite city exclusives next to Benjo in 19. I couldn't think of the name for a minute, but Musk 25 is the LA city exclusive. So if you're ever traveling in the USA and you happen to be in LA, definitely check this one out. It's only launched worldwide at all stores the month of September, obviously. But I really think this is a great, delicious musk. Kind of you know, animalic but sexy. It's not overly loud, so it's a bit intimate, but really a great trail when you wear it and somebody's kind of close to you. You're kind of passing them by and they get a whiff of you. Smells sexy and fantastic with this one. So this is Musk 25. It does feature loads of musks, aldehydes, vetiver, ambergris, civet, and it's a synthetic form of civet. And then I have to include this one. This is my favorite from this house, Bergamot 22. One of the most magical citrus fragrances for me. Really transports me to, I don't know where it transports me, but whatever it is, it's somewhere Mediterranean-esque, but not necessarily along the coast, more into like a grove, a citrus grove. It's kind of breezy, not extremely hot, but there's definitely heat out there, which has baked the citrus trees or the bergamot trees, and you've got some floral touches and the smell of the green leaves, and of course the fruits there. Super fantastic fragrance. Bergamot, vetiver, grapefruit, orange blossom, petitgrain, musk, and cedar. So this is a really lovely fragrance, and those are the three fragrances I'm going to recommend from Le Labo. And as I said, go catch my top 20, which just aired over the weekend on Saturday, and you'll learn a lot more about Le Labo fragrances. All right, number 3 favorite Estee Lauder owned brand happens to be Jo Malone. Yeah, I could have switched things around with Le Labo. I kind of felt like going with this particular house at number 3 because I've known about them longer and I've worn their fragrances quite a bit. Even though their fragrances are eau de cologne, sometimes I like fragrances like that, and they have such a wide variety of fragrances that are pretty darn amazing. We're going to start off with wood, sage, and sea salt first. A crowd-pleasing fragrance, very comforting and cozy, but still really beautiful fragrance where people really say pleasant things about this one when you wear it. Again, all fragrances from Jo Malone are eau de cologne, so they are on the lighter side. But as I said, they have some really amazing concoctions and fragrances that smell fantastic. This is one of the best, probably one of the biggest sellers. It does feature ambrette seeds, sea salt, and sage, so it's a bit aromatic, a bit salty, a bit marinish, and definitely very musky. And I feel like it's the ambrette seeds in here that provides that kind of very sexy muskiness and also causes that a crowd-pleasing factor with that fragrance. And then we're gonna go with, let's see if I can see, this is Myrrh and Tonka, this one right here. So Myrrh and Tonka is kind of a warm, spicy, resinous fragrance, and I think it's definitely a very popular release from this house. It is in the black bottle, and the black bottle are a little more intense than the clear bottles. And for me, this is definitely a bit aromatic, a bit spicy, vanillic, and of course resinous and, a bit earthy as well. But the resins are really prominent with the Myrrh, so it adds a bit of sweetness. The Tonka, a bit of nuttiness, but really beautiful fragrance here. Ambery for sure with the Myrrh and Tonka. I love that one. If you haven't checked that one, do check it out. And then Vetiver and Golden Vanilla. Vanilla fragrance with Vetiver. It really does work here. It's a bit smoky, it's a bit spicy, and a bit zingy, but bourbon vanilla galore with bourbon vetiver together. It's a great match. I didn't expect a bourbon vetiver or vetiver in general with vanilla would work so beautifully here, and it's a great scent. I recommend this one quite a bit. It's a vetiver and golden vanilla from the house of Jo Malone. And yeah, you guys are probably thinking, why did I put Jo Malone at 3 and not Le Labo at number 3? I just feel like Jo Malone, I love. I mean, I love Le Labo as well, but this was kind of a toss-up, and I went with Jo Malone for 3. So at number 2, with the Estee Lauder owned brands, I would go with Tom Ford, the only designer on this list. Let's see when Balmain is launched under Estee Lauder, what kind of fragrances they you know, end up releasing, to see where they would end up on this list. But at number 2, it's Tom Ford. Let's start off with Noir Extreme Parfum as the first option that I'm going to recommend here. A great take on the original Noir Extreme, and the Parfum is so concentrated and thick and ambery and intensified that I really love this particular version. So loads of Tonka beans here with Sandalwood. There's Amber, there's Cedar and Gaiac wood, Cardamom and Kahili ginger. So it's got zing and spice. It's got fresh spice in here, woods for sure, and it's got a warmth in there with the amber and the Tonka beans to create this kind of gourmandish edge, but not necessarily as gourmand as the original, a little more woody and ambery instead of the pistachio ice cream that was prominent in the original fragrance, but definitely very spicy and woody for sure, and it's super delicious. So that's Noir Extreme Parfum. And I'm going to recommend 2 fragrances from the Private Blend collection. First off is Noir de Noir. Definitely, I think this one needs to go into the signature line. I've been talking about fragrances of the collection that should go in. I don't think this is a very as popular as something like Oud Wood or Tobacco Vanille, so I feel like it deserves to go into that signature line, so it'll get a lot more audience. For me, this is a great chypre fragrance. It's rose with patchouli, truffles, from the underground, vanilla, oud, saffron, oak moss, and floral notes. It's a very dark rose, a chypre rose, earthy, patchouli, oak mossy rose. That's super fantastic. So it's Noir de Noir. And then we've got Tobacco Vanille, of course. It's definitely one of my favorite Tom Ford fragrances. I just think the combination of notes is just perfection. With tobacco and vanilla, they're kind of like a match made in heaven. They play wonderfully together. And then throw in some dried fruits, some spices like holiday spices. You've got cacao and tonka beans. Man, it's a delicious fragrance, and I love to wear that during the Thanksgiving holiday. So those are the 3 suggestions from Tom Ford, but all of these brands have so many fragrances. You'll have a good time deciding on what fragrance to wear from which collection and things like that. And then finally, my favorite brand under Estee Lauder happens to be, can you guess? Frederic Malle. Yes, I love Frederic Malle, and I would definitely put it at number 1. I've been a fan of Frederic Malle for 11 years. I was going to say 21 years. 11 years. I discovered them in 2012. So Portrait of a Lady was my very first fragrance, and still a fan of it. Yes, every fragrance under Estee Lauder has gotten watered down. I don't know if it's the regulations of IFRA, or if it's just being under a conglomerate and money saving ingredients versus more expensive ingredients. I don't know what it is. You can definitely experience the thinning down of the fragrances. At least I can, but a lot of these fragrances that any of you that are newbies in the fragrance community, or just smelling fragrances and discovering, you know, this hobby as a fragrance lover, you might think some of these fragrances are the most amazing fragrances. Of course, I still think some of these are, but I just definitely know that they have gotten a little thinner. So first fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is this one. Of course, Portrait of a Lady, gotta include that one. This is rose patchouli with incense, cloves, raspberry, blackcurrant. Definitely another rose chypre, and a spicy one, a very modern but with classic, you know, roots. It definitely has classic touches for sure, and takes me back to kind of the days when chypre fragrances were very popular. Created by Dominique Ropian, probably one of the best fragrances. In fact, I just featured it in Iconic Fragrances video. And then we're gonna do Musk Ravageur. Definitely would be featured in that video as well. Definitely an iconic fragrance. Although I can tell definitely a prominent difference under Estee Lauder versus the non-Estee Lauder. I feel like Musk Ravageur under Estee Lauder has gotten more gourmand, and it was a little more musky under under Frederic Malle itself. But this is a great musky fragrance, gourmand of course, with vanilla, musk, cinnamon, cloves, tonka, amber, lavender, and sandalwood. It's super fantastic. Love it. Probably my second favorite, although I can kind of go back and forth with Portrait of a Lady going to number 2 and Musk Ravageur at number 1. And then this is from the Desert Gems collection. The Moon has become my favorite in this collection. This is so good. So so good. It's definitely very Middle Eastern, but fruity, happy at the same time. Not a very dark, kind of smoky, incensey oud rose thing. Definitely the fruitiness kind of adds some brightness and some playfulness from some happiness to this particular fragrance. It's very pricey for sure, but I think it's a job well done by Julien Rasconnais. Features notes of raspberry, oud, olibanum, leather, saffron, amber, Turkish rose, and red berries. Great job. This is such a great fragrance and definitely deserves to be here discussed in this video. And that's the last brand under Estee Lauder I'm talking about. I've got a couple more I'm going to talk to you about under the bonus section. But what are your thoughts on these brands and the ranking? How would you rank these brands if you were to rank your top 5 favorite Estee Lauder owned brands? Put a comment down below so I can find out. Maybe yours is different. Maybe it's similar to mine, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are and how you would rank. Let me know also which next conglomerate I should tackle. I think some of the rest of the conglomerates are going to be so big, this will be not necessarily a top 5, it'll be like a top 10. I could probably do a top 5, but like let's say LVMH might be a top 10, Coty might be even bigger, then you've got L'Oreal, then you've got Puig, Interparfums, all these different conglomerates that have all these different brands with fragrances. But let me know which one you want me to tackle. I'm thinking LVMH, but maybe you have another idea. We'll leave L'Oreal till the end, I think, right? But either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So I've got a couple of different brands that just did not fit into top 5. One of them is a fairly new brand under Estee Lauder, but it's AERIN Lauder and her own collection of fragrances. I believe she's a daughter or granddaughter, I'm not 100% sure. And she's got these fragrances leaning feminine, they're targeted to women. Some of these I think can be worn by men for sure. Like this, for example, Cedar Violet, I feel like it's masculine. It's definitely violet leaves and cedar together with some floral touches, but lots of woods there. And then you've got this Mediterranean honeysuckle, and this one seems like kind of reminding me of Mediterranean theme, like Lys Méditerranée from Frederic Malle, which in this case it's a bit marine, but rather than the lilies, it's honeysuckle. And then with this one, Evening Rose, I think more of like a dark kind of noirish rose, but not necessarily like Portrait of a Lady, but kind of ambery and spicy as well. So that's one brand that did not fit into the top 5. I'm just discovering that brand. I know it's a bit more conventional, but there are some nice gems in there. And the other brand that I'm just getting into is the Estee Lauder collection of luxury fragrances. I've got Tender Light and Sensuous Stars. Tender Light is kind of a very clean, powdery fragrance. Really easy to wear, fresh, really enjoyable wear, but also kind of very simplistic, and definitely it's something you can wear around people when they're very sensitive. And then Sensuous Stars is very powdery with iris and also plums, so there's a fruity, plummy kind of powderiness happening in there. So those are the only 2 I have from this collection, and I'm looking to explore more. And then finally Aramis, it's under Estee Lauder as well. It's an old brand, and of course they only have one fragrance that I can think of, because everything else that they had launched they haven't really done anything with. I believe Clinique is also under Estee Lauder, which I have not been mentioning here, and there's also Calyx and Origins. I'm going to leave those brands out and just basically focus on what I just talked to you about. But do let me know about these fragrances that I just mentioned here in the bonus section, and also don't forget to let me know which other conglomerate you want me to tackle in the next video of conglomerates. Thank you guys, have a good one, bye bye.